Shalom and good day all, this is Healing29 back again for graphic novels I have recently read through, and this is graphic novels coming over from um, January, February into March, so coming into present, and going through the list of graphic novels that I've been reading through, or softcover trades. We have Shazam and the Seven Magic Lands by Jeff Johns. We have Talon by James Tinian. Moon Knight by Jeff Lemire. Of course, Brian Michael Bendis. And last but not least, Bemis. I am reading some Jed McKay, but that isn't on display right now. We have Milestone Omnibus Volume 2. Stranger Things, which has some work by Jody Hells. And I've also been watching through the series at the moment. We also have the Future State related stuff by the terrible John Ridley. And we also have Middle West by Scotty Young. We have Batman Urban Legends, which is Volume 1. And last but not least, Metal Men. So what I'll do next is I'll go through the rating for both art and the story in relation to each volume that you see before you here. And we'll start off with Shazam and the Magic Lands, or the Seven Magic Lands by Jeff Johns. For that, a 7.5 out of 10. It's really nice to read some Jeff Johns, considering how important he was in the area of Rebirth, or DC Rebirth. Next is the character of James Tinian's Talon, for which I give a 7 out of 10 overall. Moving into Jeff Lemire's Moon Knight, I must admit I really did enjoy Jeff Lemire's Moon Knight, and you could certainly see that he took the time to try to at least cover a fair amount of the aliases of Moon Knight. So for that, an 8.5 out of 10. Brian Michael Bendis Moon Knight. Well, I'm going to say this. This might be one Brian Michael Bendis title that I actually enjoy from Marvel. Funny that. Because the way it centers around the character, because there are times where you don't know if Moon Knight is actually interacting with members that make up the Avengers or not make up the Avengers. And there are times where it does occur and they're not there, but there are also times where it occurs and they are actually literally there. And I thought that was really clever in the storytelling. So, managing to get a good score out of me, especially for a lot of these titles from DC, which do end up in Fool's Gold. For this Marvel one, I'm willing to give it maybe a 7 out of 10. Not a 7.5, but a 7 out of 10. And that goes for both art and story. Max Bemis, well, I'm sure many of you remember the controversy around this, but it was only for certain issues. But if you look outside of those controversial issues, there are actually some good story elements in this. Again, I'll probably give it a 7 out of 10, so about the same as the Bendis one. Moving to the next one, and that is the DC Milestones Compendium Volume 2. Oh my goodness, this was so fantastic to read through. I advise you, go and pick this thing up. I've read through the first volume, loved the first volume. Read for this second volume. When's the third going to come out? It's nice to read something other than main DC characters, other than Superman, Batman, And if it's anything, we need to see this milestone universe brought to the screen. So for this, I'm giving an 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed the stories. I really enjoyed the characters. Yes, we got to see Superman, Connor Kent, Superboy. We also got to see Supergirl make an appearance and interact with this world. But also see how there's a difference in the philosophy of the characters as well, and how many of them have very similar philosophies. So, yes, it deserves a big 8.5 out of 10 from me. Next is The Stranger Things, which has the omnibus, or the first omnibus. And it was really nice to reread this, or reread through this, as I have collected a number of the comics in relation to the Stranger Things series, as well as actually starting to watch the series. And I'll say one thing, if it wasn't for Jody Houser's first Stranger Things comic, I probably wouldn't be watching the actual Stranger Things series now. Yeah, I might be a little bit late to the party, but sometimes better later than never. So overall, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10 because of the work that's been put into the omnibus, as along with the stories, including some one-shots here and there too. The Next Batman by John Ridley. Well, to those who saw my fool's gold in relation to the future state stuff, I stick by what I said. So, the fool's gold ratings for this are still the same. Get rid of Jace Fox. I mean it. Get rid of Jace Fox. The only Batman is Bruce Wayne. Moving into Middle West, reading this omnibus, and that's right, this is an actual omnibus of all the issues compared into one. And I know I've collected collected the volumes individually as well as the issues individually, but being able to come back and read this omnibus as a whole, with all the stories compound together, I'm giving this thing an 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed it from beginning to end, and it's nice to reread something that you do actually enjoy. Batman Urban Legends. Now, this has 2 stories in it. Of course, you can see here it's got Chip Zdarsky, plus Matthew Rosenberg, plus a couple of others that are there, as well as who does the art. It was really nice to read the Red Hood story again, and the other story, such as involving the Outsiders and whatever else. For this overall, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Last but not least is The Metal Men. And I'm sure those who remember The Metal Men, or this particular run on The Metal Men, it was done by Dan Didio, someone to which many of us in the comic community do not actually enjoy, especially the way he took and directed DC Comics and ruined a number of characters. But that's not to say that when he's not being a jerk in editorial, that he can actually get out some really good story. So remove him from that position and put him in a position of telling stories, and he can get something really good out there. And reading Metalman, elements of change, and yes, we even got the appearance of Sideways in this, but I do have a small criticism though in regards to the Sideways, especially the way his appearance was made in the story. He looked like he was in his early 20s or 30s. When we know, according to the Sideways actual run, he's in his early teens. Or not early teens, mid to late teens. It was nice to see his character, and there was also comic references to certain events, which was really good too. So for this, I am going to give it an a 7.5 out of 10. Well, until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.